Idaho Drinkerinos, welcome to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I am your host, Steve Kuntz. On today's show, we welcome Chris Baker from none other than Mother Earth Brewing. We're going to talk all about Mother Earth's meteoric rise here in the Gem State, and we go into the Wayback Machine and talk about Baker learning the craft in San Diego, of all places, and what it was like for a young brewer there as craft beer sort of exploded. Then we have a YouTube special for Friday Night Pints that includes a couple of Mother Earth's newest beers. We have them right here. It's episode 5, Love Your Mother, today on the Idaho Booze Podcast. It's the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week. It is called Between the Sheets, and it's from our friends at Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Warren Reserve Cocktail Company, makers of great bitters and syrups. You can go to the show notes and find an awesome link there where you get, I think it's 15% off when you spend $40 or more using my code BoozePod is what it is, or Idaho Booze 25 or something. I don't know. It's on the show notes. Go check it out. Anyway, let's get started on this drink. It's a classic drink. It's a 1-1-1 and or 1-1/4, I guess it is. And this one starts out with, you get your little shaker. We're going to add first our bitters and our lemon juice. And then we're also going to add, 3 to 4 dashes of Warren Reserve orange bitters. Nice one. This is a great bitter, awesome in all cocktails. I really like it in old fashions, and I think you will too. So make sure you check out this one. So we're going to do 4 good shakes in there. And then this is where it gets fun and interesting. We're going to do 1 ounce of cognac. I got this one. It's some rapper's cognac. I don't remember whose. It's called Nod VS. Up next is light rum. I don't have any light rum. This is bad. My bad. No light rum, but I do have Pirat dark rum. This stuff is really good stuff, and it's a little funky and it's a little dirty, but it'll do just fine for this cocktail. I think that goes into the shaker, and then we're going to do 1 ounce of triple sec. Sounds like a lot of triple sec, but no, that's what the recipe calls for. So we're going to do 1 ounce of triple sec. This is the cheap stuff. I don't often buy expensive triple sec. Usually what I'll do, if I don't want to use triple sec in my margaritas, I'll use mushroom, which is really, really good stuff. All right, so get that in there with all the other stuff. We got the lemon juice in there. We're going to add ice to our shaker. Always add your ice last. You don't want to dilute the cocktail before you have to. And then we're going to shake it up. Anyway, how are things with you guys? Good? Yeah, I'm good. Chilling. Snowed last night. Kind of a lot, as you can see back there. What are you going to do? It's Idaho. It's snowing. But it's gorgeous. Looking forward to enjoying that later today. All right. Now, we need a cocktail glass. Let's see what we have here. Oh, perfect. Normally, you want to freeze your cocktail glass first. I don't have a refrigerator back here, but I do have this nice glass. So this is going to go into cocktail glass, like so. All right, and for garnish, we're going to do an orange peel, and we're going to get that with our knife. We can pull the orange peel off. And Adrian, ever the cocktail artist, Adrian from Warren Reserve, she's really, really specific about these sort of things and really good at making cocktails. So she says to flame it, so we'll do that. Flame on, baby. Ooh. Nice and flamed, as you can see there. And then we're going to express the orange all throughout the drink here. Boop, boop, boop. Want it to look really good. And then we'll give it a little sippy. Ooh, that is a tasty drink. And certainly one that will get me between the sheets. This one, nice little orange in there that expressed that flamed orange. Really nice. Kind of in there as a background. You get a little bit of smoke. You get that cognac that comes through really nice and sweet. And then the rum just kind of boosts that a little bit. This is what I would call like a happy cocktail. This is not a cocktail that you have after a long day. This is a cocktail you have before you're going to go out for a fun night. And I absolutely recommend it. Great little cocktail from our friends at Warren Reserve. And if you want to win yourself a Warren Reserve prize pack, like this one right here, send us an email, idahoboozepod@gmail.com. And you can win one. Just send us your favorite cocktail recipe. And if we use it for the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week, you can win yourself a brand new set of artisanal bitters from our friends at Warren Reserve. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Looking to spice things up in the cocktail department? Try adding a little taste of chili to your next cocktail with Chili Lime Bitters from Warren Reserve. Just 2 drops will give your old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or margarita just the right amount of zing to warm you up in these cold winter months. Want to feel the burn? Just add another 2 drops. Chili Lime Bitters turn a simple Bloody Mary into a beautiful spicy Bloody without adding more mix or booze. Just a couple of drops of Chili Lime Bitters will do ya. Get Chili Lime Bitters at warrenreserve.com, order online, get free delivery, plus save 15% on orders over $40 with my promo code Idaho Booze 25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com, Idaho Booze 25 at checkout. Save tons of money on awesome bitters from Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Now, welcome back to the show. This weekend, it's the Super Bowl. For some reason, everybody calls it the big game. I'm just going to go with Super Bowl. You know what? Come get me, NFL. Please, come get me. Hopefully, you're catching the show before you head out to the Super Bowl party because I've got something for you. It's my annual Super Game Drinking Bowl. As the great John Arnold once said, hold on to your butts because this game is not for the weak of mind, liver, or spirit. I will be sending out a print version of this out to my Substack that you can get noon today. So it should be out by the time you hear this. Go over to the idahobooze.substack.com and check out the printed version of this and bring it to your party. Make it a little bit more fun. So let's start out at the beginning of the game here before actually during the national anthem. If Nick Sirianni or Chris Jones cry during the national anthem, go ahead and finish your drink. If Patrick Mahomes looks like he's going to rip through the whole Eagles squad during the national anthem, then buy your friend who's cheering on the Eagles a beer and maybe say a prayer for them. If John Baptist sings the anthem without singing, if he just plays it like just musically, I guess, or without singing, shots all around, everybody gets a shot. Now, these are a little bit more, so this is like a one-time thing. So if the coin toss is heads, this is very important, you drink. Now, if the coin toss is tails, you also drink. And if your friend hosting the party asks for cash for the squares game, make them drink the rest of your drink and stare them in the eyes as they drink it with a lot of loathing. I mean, come on, cash? It's 2025, people. Let's get onto the Venmo. If the opening kickoff is returned for a touchdown, yell out, Desmond Howard, bitches, and drink 6 times. Every time those Eagles run the tush push, drink and say out loud, that's a dirty little tushy. Only if you're an Eagles fan, though. You deserve some shame for this laughably stupid play. Stupid play. I hate the tush push. Every time somebody else on the Chiefs runs a QB sneak and you're a Chiefs fan and it isn't Patrick Mahomes running the sneak, you have to say out loud, Joe Montana ran his own sneaks, and then drink because he did, and Joe Montana was the greatest. If the first quarter or halftime score is 0-0, make everyone finish their drink. If the game finishes tied in zeros, everybody drink whatever's left in the house. Just a free-for-all. Anytime they show Jason Kelsey, this is Travis Kelsey's brother, Jason, take off your shirt and point at a random spot on the wall and slam a beer. Anytime they show Taylor Swift, grab the nearest person and sing ours to them. Oh, that'll be sweet. Then take a drink. Whenever a new movie trailer plays, say, that looks like a giant pile of, and then you can insert like Thing, T-Rex, or Red Hulk. Say so like, that looks like a giant pile of Red Hulk shit, and then take a drink. That'll be hilarious. Whenever any pharmaceutical commercial plays, sing Sky Rizzy is for me. Oh, and take a drink. Or for bonus points, hold up a pill bottle and say, I got's mine. Then take a pill if it's safe. Only if it's safe. Anytime a legal gambling commercial plays, bet your friends that they can't finish their drinks. And now we'll get into the halftime show, Kendrick Lamar. If Kendrick Lamar sings Not Like Us, you have to actually sing the A minor part and drink. If they show Drake in the audience, which would be amazing, everyone does shots and say a prayer for Canada. If Kendrick Lamar does not sing Not Like Us, then say, sort of under your breath, A minor, wussy, out loud, and then do a shot. Now, this joke is hilarious, but be smart. If Kendrick Lamar, anybody named Lamar, or anybody named Kendrick is at your party, do not do that. You do not want that beef. That is not your beef. If Kendrick Lamar does the song from Black Panther, then give the Wakanda Forever salute and do a shot with a friend. If Kendrick Lamar refuses to leave the stage and Fox just lets him do a full concert, well, switch to NA beer for the rest of that show and then go back to regular beer for the game. If Kendrick Lamar gets a red Gatorade dumped on him, your boy right here wins big. Do a drink. If the third quarter kickoff is run back for a touchdown, once again yell out, Desmond Howard, bitches, and drink 6 times. Take a break in the third quarter. Have an NA or some water, rehydrate. It's the Super Bowl, not your best friend's kid's first birthday party, for crying out loud. So just relax. But back in the fourth quarter, well, we're at it again. If Kansas City is ever behind in the fourth quarter, take a drink, then pat your Chiefs fan friend on the shoulder. So if there's a friend there who's a Chiefs fan, you pat him on the shoulder and you say, you'll get him next year. If the Eagles are ever behind, go to your Eagles fan friend and say, boy, that's Senator John Fetterman. He's a real ass. Then do a shot with him. If Jalen Hurts throws a pick to finish the game, make your Eagles fan friend finish your drink, then offer to get them another. Be nice. And if Patrick Mahomes drives down the field to win the game, calmly pack your shit up and leave without saying anything to anybody. Congratulations, the Chiefs won again. This should get you through the game and maybe into the hospital. Remember to have fun, but be safe this Super Bowl Sunday because you never know. It could be our last one. I mean, who knows? President Elon could take it out next. Speaking of next, we have Chris Baker, the head of brewing operations at Mother Earth and an all-around great guy. He's up next on the Idaho Booze Podcast. The holidays are over, but that does not mean giving up on the holiday cheer. And the best way to get to cheer is through beer. And that's why you need a Boise Beer Buddies card. This card and the amazing Boise Beer Buddies app unlock incredible savings at the best restaurants, bars, breweries, and even a bunch of great wineries in Idaho. Many save you $1 or more. Some save you as much as 25% off your whole bill. The best part is you make other beer buddies through Boise Beer Buddies' amazing social media connection pages. Save money on beers you're already buying. Upgrade your cheer and be a buddy by picking up your Boise Beer Buddies card today. Use promo code Idaho Booze at checkout. Get a free card with the purchase of one at BoiseBeerBuddies.com. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, here with Chris Baker from Mother Earth Brewing. Chris, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, as always. And right now we're sipping on a couple of different beers here. I have the brand new Pilsner, and this is your newest entry into the market full-time, I guess?
Yep. Core offering, yep.
Cool. And what goes into something like a decision like that on your side, now that you're kind of out of the brewery and in the office? What goes into the decision? Like maybe start from, where maybe a brewer wants to do a Pilsner or you guys want to do a Pilsner. How does that work?
It's kind of a long conversation because it starts out with a style that as brewers we really dig drinking. And then obviously you start to see the kind of the market grow. Being in the Pacific Northwest, like watching Freem Pilsner kind of take off and seeing some of these great beers, like Pilsners are a good example of your brewing ability. And so we kind of started to go down that road. And then on top of that, like for us, Tierra Madre took off 4 years ago. And we kind of realized we needed to diversify a little bit of our lager game. And even for a lot of the company ownership, management, everybody all the way down brewers, like we realized that was something that we kind of wanted to add to our lineup. And so we put about a year in front of us to work on a recipe and getting costing together and getting it figured out. And then that's the first batch that has been launched out into the world.
Yeah, I'd say it tastes pretty good. It's a nice little Pilsner.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's really
easy drinking.
Yeah, it's funny. It's got things that we're going to adjust in it. That's the first batch that we brewed on the big system, on the 40 barrel systems, 120 barrels. So it's 3 batches to make that. So you learn some things along the way and some things that we're going to make adjustments to along the way. But
that's what I would get asked more often than not when we would put out a new beer we would be, who came up with the idea, where did it come from, blah, blah, blah. And the real answer is it kind of more often than not, I'd have a thought in my head and I'd be like, man, we really need like a IPA or something, whatever it is. But we really need a porter. No one would ever say that, but maybe I would say that.
Sure.
And then more often than not, I would go to my brewer, I'd go to operations or whoever, and I'd be like, hey, what do you think about doing a porter? And they would be like, I was just thinking about doing a porter more often than not. Yeah. Do you find that kind of happens here as well, like between you and your brewers and your management and your owner and everything?
Yeah, and it's been cool. So we got the 5-barrel system a couple of years ago, and so the brewers, that is not controlled by the production like machine at all. Like that is 100% on the brewers.
Like a little test system.
Yeah, and so and to get some more interesting stuff into our tasting rooms. I mean, like really going back on the story, like COVID really killed a lot of our like one-off releases because everything just became about producing core. And so as that kind of returned, we realized that we wanted more variety in the tasting room specifically, and so we added the 5-barrel system just for those. That did is that gave kind of the brewers like a voice. So now the brewers are putting these beers out, and Matt Watterson, Matt Ortiz, my whole brewing staff are big Pilsner guys. And so they started putting them out, and before you know it, you're starting to have conversations about, okay, well, what's our new offering going to be? And then everybody's like, well, it seems like it's kind of a slam dunk. Like, we like where we're going with this. We made some good batches, and we're excited about it. And so it kind of organically happens. Like, you'll start to get consensus through, like, management that, like, they like a style. Like, we have another one right now. Like, we won a medal at GABF for our Japanese lager. Awesome. Like,
tasty.
It's a really good beer, and it's exciting, and it's something we're producing in the tasting room more frequently now on the 5-barrel system, and it's something that sells well. So obviously that question comes up. So it ends up being more like a farm system.
Yeah, and you're lucky enough that you have a couple of tasting rooms now with the one downtown, which is awesome, by the way. Well done there. Where you can sort of test the test, right? You can you get on the 5-barrel. It's big enough that you get a couple kegs out of it, and you can see how people think about it before you actually commit to doing, like you said, 120 barrels of it.
Yeah, and that was, originally with Mother Earth, we had when I joined anyway. The Mother Earth originally started on a 1-barrel system. When I joined, we had a 20-barrel. But all of our limited time one-off releases were 20 barrels. It's a lot of beer to push through a tasting room or sell out in the market. Just sell by the keg.
Yeah, 20 barrels is a lot of beer. It's 40 kegs of beer.
And if you get something wrong, you got to kind of deal with it, which sucks. And so the 5-barrel system, really allows us to it's big enough that we get a good amount of beer to sell in the tasting room, but it's also small enough that if something, if we wanted to try something crazy and we dumped it, we could dump it.
Yeah.
And it happens. Like, we've had a couple batches where we've totally whiffed on color.
Sure.
You're trying to make a porter, and you end up making maybe closer to a brown, and you're like, I don't want to do this. Or we made a German Hefeweizen. I put this out there. We made a German Hefeweizen. That was awful. And I went out there, we were just like, no, dump it. And so those things, that's the nice thing about that size, is you can kind of play a little bit, and you're really focused on just releasing quality. And also, like I said, letting the brewers do stuff like getting back to seasonal beers. Mm-hmm. You don't really see that stuff anymore. So making sure you have your porters on in the fall and the winter, and making sure that you're doing your big beers during Christmas, or you're doing your saisons that you're not going to sell in the open market and package or in draft.
No.
But you can sell them in your tasting room.
Sure.
And so that's kind of
slowly but surely.
Exactly. and it's small enough that if it does end up being more on the slowly side, it doesn't take forever. Really, you're not talking about a ton of wine.
Yeah, and with some of those things, we used to do that, and maybe you guys see this too, where you'd hear from the tasting room, and you'd hear from the bartenders mostly, right? So we just met a couple of really nice ones out in the tasting room, and they'll come to you and be like, "Hey, Baker, everybody's asking for Hefeweizen," and you'll be like, "Oh, whatever." Well, we were so close because my office was right literally behind the bar, so I'd be out there and I would just hear it right from the people that were there. Hey, we want a Hef. All right, fine. Brew a Hef, and then they don't drink it.
Yeah, we see that. We try to sift through some of that. It's kind of funny, we have that conversation about Syntax a lot. Syntax used to be a year.
I love that beer.
Used to be a year-round beer in 12-ounce cans, and there's lots of conversations you can have about why it died off, but with year-round beer in 12-ounce cans, got to the point where the velocity just got so slow we finally discontinued it. And it's the same thing in the tasting room. The velocities in the tasting room that slowed way down. And so now, but that's the beer we get, told or asked about the most. Why don't you brew this? Why don't you brew this? And so we do it seasonally now.
And that'll absolutely happen once you take one away, right? Yep. Every time, right? And the whole time it's out, you're like, well, you could be drinking Syntax right now. You're like, well, there's a Quit Stalin out, or there's
where were you 2 years ago when I discontinued this brand and I wasn't selling any of it? Mine on that front is we discontinued Hop Diggity.
That's the one that I was just going to ask him.
Yeah, it won a silver at GABF, which was rad. That's probably the coolest medal I've ever been a part of. And Next thing you know, it gets dropped from a grocery chain and it goes away. And you're just like, man. And that's the one I miss. I miss that probably. That's probably the brand I miss the most.
That I think might be, that was my favorite. Like, I think it was in the 12 pack, right? So that would be the one I'd go to first. It definitely was the Hop Diggity. I love Buku. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like them all.
Yeah. And
Hop Diggity's freaking awesome.
And we'll see. Double IPA will probably come back. It's just a different world. But it's funny. Hop Diggity was definitely a beer for brewers. It wasn't a real profitable beer. It was profitable, but not really profitable.
Well, yeah, it's like 8.5% or something.
Yeah, and it was hops. It's just crazy amounts. And so it was awesome. It just was not a very sustainable beer, as they would say in the distribution world, a lost leader, I guess. But
they would say.
But I miss it. I miss those employee fills. I miss being able to pick those up. Like Diggity's a really good brand.
Yeah, it is. So you've been with Mother Earth now for how long?
11 years.
11 years. And you were originally hired in the Vista Brewery.
Yep.
And so before that, you were at Stone? Was that before that?
Yeah, I was at Stone Brewing for 3 years.
3 years. All right. Well, who was the head brewer while you were there? And how was it working at Stone for such like a leviathan at the time of craft brewing?
Well, what's really cool about it is that, I mean, obviously Stone became a huge name, different world now, but like, when I joined them, they were 180,000 barrels a year, and by perspective, we're close to 30.
Yeah.
So they're 6 times. At that time, they were 6 times bigger than us. I think now they're closer to 400,000, about to move to 800,000 because they're getting Sapporo. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it was cool. And when I was there, Mitch Steele was the brewmaster.
Nice.
And actually, a lot of the team that I worked with in management are still there. Jeremy Monier's basically their head brewer, I think, at this point. I don't remember what his title is. And then Chris Ketchum is running Liberty Station, is kind of their R&D guy. Anyway, those were the guys that I worked with when I was down there. There's really not a better place to learn how to brew on the planet. I mean, basically it was like the Wild West. This big building growing they added, in the 3 years I was there, they added almost 50 fermenters. Oof. So when I got there, they had like 16, and when I left, they had like 7.
Like 10-barrel fermenters.
No, these are 360-barrel fermenters. Yeah, they're huge. And so it was cool because at the same time, I got to learn their centrifuge. I got to learn a lot about automation. Worked on like probably 2 of the nicest brew houses you could have in the Rolex that they had. We got to work with good brewers. Like
This is Escondido?
This is Escondido, yeah. They brought in, like, I was just thinking about this the other day, like, one of my coolest memories there was I spent 2 weeks with a German brewer from Rolex that was commissioning the second 120-barrel brew house that was there, and I got to be the one to help him commission it. And, like, the amount of stuff I learned in that 2-week period is, like, stuff I still reference. And then obviously getting to work with centrifuges and the big DE filters and all the stuff they had. I wasn't as much in packaging, but I got to do all that stuff. So it was pretty awesome. And then when I left, it was mostly just because I had kind of hit the top of the brewing world. Like in there, I was like the most senior guy on the team. And really, I just wanted to brew and I wanted to make my own recipe. Well, yeah, and I mean, really, there were like 4 people between me and him, but like I wanted to write recipes. Like I knew that was the part I didn't have as much experience on because I wasn't a huge home brewer. I was when I started with Stone. Like once I got to Stone, I started homebrewing like crazy.
I think that's kind of the way it goes for everybody that works in
well, there's a lot of people out. There's a lot of people that start as homebrewers and then just jump to the professional scene without any experience, which is tough. Yeah. But for like, I wanted to test recipes, and so getting to jump on with Mother Earth was like kind of perfect. So I moved across just a brewer, and then started with Mother Earth, and then me and a kid from Ballast Point like really started with Mother Earth as they signed their first distribution contract, and Cali Cream kind of took off. And so when we joined Mother Earth, they were 4,000 barrels. And in the first, like, I think the second year, our first full year with the company, we were almost 8,000. And I think after our second full year, we were almost 14,000. So we were growing at an insane rate. And we got to be there through all that. So we got to be there through all the expansions and a lot of recipe development and stuff like that. So it was a pretty cool experience. And then obviously the Idaho location came on 3 years after I joined Mother Earth.
Oh, wow.
So, 3 years of Stone, 3 years of Vista with Mother Earth, and then I've been here for...
I'm trying to remember who the brewer was here before you.
What do you mean?
No, I guess there wasn't. You came up here with the brewery, right?
I came up. It was me and Dan and Mike.
Yeah.
Came up here and started this, and then I brought up Chuck. He was my head brewer here when we first came up. He brewed with us. He brewed with me at Stone, and he brewed at Vista with us, and then he came up here as our brewer, and then he moved on.
That was going to be my next thing. So you were at Stone. It was almost kind of like, I don't know what the best comparison is. Maybe like Bill Belichick's staff at the Cleveland Browns, where you guys were working there with Mitch Steele, who's a, monster.
Yeah. Still is.
Still is. Yeah, he's still. I know his
new realm is always winning medals and always doing something
amazing. So who else was there with you at Stone while you were there, just kicking around the brewery?
Oh, like other brewers that were there? Yeah. Oh man.
Because I've met in the wild at least 2 of them that have been like, do you know Baker?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, a guy. I always get the letters wrong or numbers wrong. 1883.
Oh, yeah, Sean.
Yeah.
So he was actually, was he with Pizza Port?
I think he was with Pizza Port.
Yeah, kind of a connection through, and then as everybody started to break up and kind of do their own thing, he ended up, he went on a couple of different, he's been running his own facilities for a while, doing a bunch of different stuff. He was with Kern for a while, and Great Brewer, won a bunch of medals there, and then started that deal with 1883.
I think it's something like that, or 1863 or 1843.
I was messing with it.
It's a Yellowstone ripoff.
He was before the new one. Anyway.
I can't remember.
But yeah,
it's in Orange. And we went there, and I saw him, and I was like, yeah, I live in Boise. He's like, do you know Baker? I was like, yeah, I do know Baker.
That's awesome. Yeah, and honestly, super good dude. Me and him were best men in our friend's wedding, who's Jeff Huneman, who's at Fremont. I think he's moved out of the brewing side more. He's more of an admin role now, but also climbing the ladder. But then, Holly Stevenson she's working for Diageo now. Another one of our buddies is running Topa Topa in Ventura. They're kind of all over. But the reality is the vast majority of them are still in the industry.
Yeah.
And most of them have kind of jumped out and are running their own facilities.
That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, but it's brewing, so it becomes hard. Like, you only get so many layers of separation before you start, like, guys are kind of moving all over. Like, our buddy Derek was running Duckfoot and then went to another brewery. And I kind of lost track of him at that point. But then the guys are still all over. Yeah, there are a lot of high-powered. I mean, like, Holly... I'll roll back a little bit. So when we joined there, they always touted that Stone had the highest rejection rate.
Yeah.
Or had a higher rejection rate than Harvard.
Yeah.
And I will admit this. When I went to get a job there, I had no idea. I had not been in the brewing industry at all. I go to a job interview at Stone at their, like, the bistro gardens. You've been there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, and I'm literally standing in the upper parking lot in the back of the line. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I stand in this line. It takes me like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to the front of the line for like a
casting call.
Yeah, for like a 3-minute interview with Chris Ketchum, with one person. And the only reason I got in is because I had wine experience. But then you have like once the team gets built out, we've got architects, and like Holly was like a lobbyist for a while. Like you had all these like really high powered, like very intelligent people that were working in there. That was one of the coolest teams I ever worked on.
So the first time I ever went there, the gardens weren't even there. It was a giant rock pit. It was and I actually can go into the restaurant now. I think I could, like last time I was there, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and I could actually pick out the stones that I helped. I used like a jackhammer and jackhammered a bunch of big rocks into stones that we then put into we hauled, Greg Cook and I hauled them into the brewery and put them down where they are. Yeah, there's probably 2 that I can think of right now. That one is a table and the other one is actually in the little creek that goes through the bar.
So what were you doing at that time?
I made friends with Greg. I was working in Palm Springs at a TV station, and we went out to go interview him about this whole new craft beer thing that's going on. Yeah. Have you heard about this thing? It's called craft beer. And they're doing it in San Diego. And so we went across the mountains over to San Diego, and we had a real epic night out, super fun. And he was like, the next time I saw him, I think maybe that night even, he was like, come back anytime. We'll put you on the friends and family. So basically, I just bought beer at Stone for the next year and a half of my life because it gave me a chance to get out of Palm Springs for a day, and B, it meant an outside chance of hanging out with Greg for a night, which was always a super fun deal. Yeah. And C, I got Stone beer for employee pricing, which is like cool. The greatest thing ever. So that's kind of the short. I mean, that is the short story of it. But yeah, out there's some amazing video of me with him out at this place in Mission Beach that no longer exists, drinking Pliny the Younger and totally literally getting baptized by fire into the craft beer world, which I did, and it was awesome. Yeah, and so I've always been a huge fan of Stone, and even now that Greg is kind of weird, huge fan of Greg. He actually wrote the foreword to my book, which was amazing too. Yeah, so yeah, I have a pretty good history with him and Mitch. Actually, I met Mitch that same day. We wandered in the brewery to do this interview, and Mitch was there brewing beer, and he was this is Mitch. I was like, hey Mitch, and I'd see him every time I go over there. Hey Mitch, hey. And then like he just all of a sudden became like the most famous brewer on the planet. It was like the most amazing thing. But I always wanted to ask you about your time at Stone, because I felt like it really was like a kind of a nurturing, like you had all this talent there that was just insane. And you guys at that time, let's call it 2006, 7, 8, something like that, you guys were pumping out some
later than that, 2010 through 13. But yeah,
you guys were pumping out some,
but there was some
crazy
really
beer,
cool stuff coming out.
Yeah,
and I remember, like, especially with Mitch, like we would get, adjustments to recipes, or like adjustments to fermentations or beers or blend patterns or anything that we were doing in the cellars. And I was always kind of blown away with his ability. Well, his ability to like either fix something if it was slightly off, or blend something out to make it awesome. Or on top of that, like I was talking about before, like making 20 barrels of a recipe you've never brewed before.
Yeah.
And that was like really like nerve wracking. I mean, he brewed 120, he brewed 360.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were awesome. And so like I
kind of fill up that fermenter.
Yeah, it really was pretty, like that was probably the coolest part about it, is you got to see like a group that was doing that. And then you just had like the team, the brewing staff was so into beer and so into the movement, and you were getting, like I said, all these guys coming from all these different like professions or like walks of life that were doing it, that were honestly generally all pretty sharp in their own right, doing their own thing, and then all kind of came together to make beer, which just made it a blast. And on top of that, you have the gardens, and so you have. We had a very fun, like there was a time I lived for 2 years, I guess, because I was with Mother Earth, I think, where like five of us brewers like all lived together in a house.
Yeah,
like, it was a blast. I mean, something I can't do anymore. But
probably making about the right amount of money for all 5 of you to afford.
That's it. Oh yeah. I mean, actually, that's funny. To give you perspective on that, I was in pharmaceutical drug discovery software prior to that. And I went from that job, where I made okay money, to making $12 an hour living in San Diego in 2010, which is better than now. But yeah, it was tough. So I mean, a lot of us kind of banded together to make it all work. My parents were in the area at the time, which helped me a lot.
I did the same thing. I went from a job where I was making like $50,000 or $60,000 a year to making $10 an hour, basically doing any kind of sales thing or whatever I could do at Epic Brewing. And it was the same kind of deal. We had the same thing. I mean, I got in there early. I was their second non-brewing, non-packaging hire. So I was the second guy they hired for like sales and marketing. And over the course of 6 months, I was sales assistant to local area manager to marketing director, back to local area marketing. Like it was like the craziest thing, but we had all these people the same. I mean, we had one guy who turned out to be a really good brewer, came from Walgreens. He was just a home brewer who brought in like a 6-pack of his home brew, and Kevin hired him on the spot, and the guy ended up being a really awesome brewer. We had other people that were like in the service industry. They were like bartenders or waiters or whatever, and they just wanted to work in craft beer. Yeah. So they'd come in and we'd put them to work like on the packaging line or whatever. We have, it was just like we had vets coming back from Afghanistan and stuff like that who needed a job. We'd give them a job. I mean, and they would more often than not, not work out. Not just the vets. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
The vets usually did okay.
It's craft beer. It's a little hit or miss. You have alcohol in the mix. It can always get a little.
And you have a labeler, which is just like, I mean, for anyone that's ever been in a high pressure situation, when a labeler goes out, it's like the worst thing ever. So I mean, it's just the way it is, and it's a lot of fun, and I thought that period of time in craft beer is a neat time.
It was.
Yeah, and I thought it sounds like you had a very similar sort of experience than I did, except for I was in the sales part, so I was also going all over the country.
Yeah, which is
seeing it happen there too.
Which is cool because you got to go out and like run with it, like see the accounts, and I mean even on that side in San Diego. Like watching the craft beer bars kind of like pop up, and watching places like
the bottle shops,
exactly, like watching the Pizza Port bottle shop in Carlsbad was awesome, in a place that we frequented a lot, like
Garlic Knots, baby.
Yeah, well, Pizza Port's rad in its own right, but the why am I blanking on what it is in San Marcos? I just was thinking of this Churchill's in San Marcos
There's one in Richmond.
Little
We're in DC too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Little hole in the wall, but like a just killer beer selection.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the cool thing about being in San Diego at that time, is you had all these brewers taking off. I mean, I think about the beers I had, this like Sculpin before when I was with Stone, I think it was Stone. Like Mouse was like 80,000 barrels a year.
Sing it, brother. Tell us about Sculpin before the bad people got on.
Well, I mean, you think about it, they were 80,000 barrels a year when I was with Stone, and it might even
one
been
beer, basically.
Well, no, even there they were more diversified. But then Sculpin hit, and the original Sculpin, and everyone said this was incredible.
Incredible.
And then they started to kind of grow, and then they went and they jumped. Like I was with Mother Earth when they jumped into like grapefruit Sculpin and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And just watching it explode. Yeah. Have you had habanero Sculpin?
Yeah.
It was spicy.
Yeah.
we were talking about that the other day. But like just watching them go from that to, I see Colby on a commercial during like the World Series or whatever it was, Super Bowl or whatever, and I'm just like, holy cow! Like, I mean, to go from that big and to see that explosion, and I mean, honestly, super cool people, super cool brand. I know a ton of brewers. Like the guy. Brant was the other brewer who joined Mother Earth at the same time I did. So I came from Stone, he came from Ballast Point. And it was me and him were the two main brewers for, a couple of years, 2-3 years. And he left to go open his own thing. But anyway, it was like meeting all those guys in that whole world was just so much fun. Again, so much excitement.
Yeah.
I mean, going down to Tornado and San Diego was rad. Like North Park was super cool. Like it was just good time to be alive. Good time to be between the ages of 21 and like
for sure 29. For sure. So Salt Lake a little bit different, not quite as much fun, but we made our own fun, and we had a lot of little breweries that have kind of done their own thing and whatever else. But it's the San Diego brew scene though is a special thing, and I think it's really cool that we have someone like you that's here in Idaho producing amazing beers, and someone like a brewery like Mother Earth that came here. So you guys came here. I don't know. I want to say 2015 or 16, something like that.
16, yeah.
16, okay. And you guys, I would say Idaho is a tough place to move to if you're from out of town. Because now, don't get mad at me, okay, everyone. I'm part of the problem too. We're very provincial. We're not necessarily super welcoming at first, but once we get to know you, we're usually a lot cooler. I think that's a fair thing to say about the good people of Idaho. And with Mother Earth, what you guys did when you came into town here was nothing short of a miracle. I remember I was at an account, and I think it was Whole Foods. It could have been somewhere else, but I think it was Whole Foods. And the guy goes, "Have you met this Mike Wesley character?" And I was like, "No, who's that?" "Oh, he's from Mother Earth. Have you heard of Mother Earth?" And I'm at this small brewery, and I knew you were coming. I knew who you were. I knew what you were all about. I'd already met Dan, I think. And I was like, "Yeah, I know Mother Earth. Yeah, they're coming in. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, they're going to be great." Yeah, they were already sold. It was already done. And this kept happening. Every account I went to. "Have you heard of these guys?" "Oh, man, I can't wait till they get here." I'm like, "Well, they're from out of town." "I don't think so. They're from here, I think." "No, they're definitely from out of town." You guys pulled off this Houdini act, basically. And it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. How did you how did you find moving here from California? How did you find the first few months being here? How did you find the beer scene when you got here? And tell us a little bit about how that kind of worked out for you guys.
For sure. Well, one, you're on record. I'm not from California. I grew up in Salt Lake City, so I knew Boise.
I knew Utah.
I shouldn't say I grew up there. I was there from 3rd grade to 9th grade.
That counts.
Which are formative years.
Let me see your underwear.
So I knew Boise. I played soccer in Utah, and I came up here a lot and played. I knew the city to some degree. And so when Dan asked me and we started talking about it, I thought it was a cool idea. I did not realize how... And I don't want to say that, how anti-California it necessarily was, but
it's not wrong.
No. You can see the stickers on the trucks and everything else.
I just moved to Eagle, and people ask me, "Where'd you move from?" And they give me this look, and I'm like, "Southeast Boise." All right.
But it did take a while. I mean, I think we had a decent reception in certain places, but it probably took a good 2 or 3 years.
I don't know, man. I was looking.
If you look in this,
you guys went from 0 to 2,000 barrels in a year.
Yeah, and I mean, and part of that was, volume being brewed here and being shipped to Southern California, and us growing in the brewery that way was for sure. But it took a little while to get Hayden like going, and I mean, really like Hayden. I mean, we've been here since 16, so we've been here for 8 years.
Well, that's also an interesting thing.
Hayden's still pushing the like.
Yeah, you guys were kind of the third wife that moved in there, huh?
Yeah.
Or maybe fourth. I mean, because they had Sockeye and Payette and Wussy Brewing, and then you guys came in too.
Yeah.
That must have been a difficult transition for them as well.
Yeah, and so I mean, you definitely had some resistance for a while. People, really, for a lot of us, a lot of it was really just people realizing that we were here. I mean, we're not big signage people.
You're in Nampa too.
We're not in like the sexiest building in the world. So like you wouldn't necessarily know we're here.
It's not the sexiest.
And so a lot of people thought we were still from California. We got resistance on that. That really didn't break until the Boise tasting room really opened. Mm-hmm. That you really started to see that kind of all shift.
I think it was when Buku went camo.
That's
what I think.
Also a possibility. But yeah, it was. So I mean, it was good. I mean, the transition for me was awesome. I wanted to live up here. I wanted to be closer to the mountains. I wanted to ski. I wanted to like go camping and.
So was it something where Dan came to you and asked if you wanted to go, or was it something where you went to Dan and you were like, "Hey man, if you're looking for someone to go, I'm down."
The first one, but it's funny because Mother Earth didn't know at the time, but I didn't want to leave Mother Earth, but I wanted to leave California because at this point I had realized I'm a brewer. I was probably making $18 to $20 an hour. I couldn't buy a house in Southern California. It's expensive. And so I was trying to get out. And I was looking for jobs to get closer to the mountains. And literally, and me and Dan have been talking about places to go and how to expand for a while. But he like came in and he's like, well, how do you feel about Boise, Idaho? And I was literally just kind of like, I'm in. And then because I remember him being like, don't you need to talk to my fiance at the time? Don't you need to talk to her? And I was like, no. Because she knew. And she already knew that we were looking at that area. So it was a cool transition. I'm happy to be up here. I like producing up here. There's to be honest with you, there's things I miss about Southern California. As far as the brewing scene is concerned, obviously that brewing scene is massive.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends down there that I learned to brew with and who now, like I didn't list before, like Anthony Tallman, another one of my good friends at Stone is running Version out of San Diego. Cool. Absolutely killing it right now. Dude I like homebrewed with for years. Just like I miss some of that, but at the same time, I love the brewing scene up here, and I've now been here long enough. Obviously, gotten to know most of the players. We're getting new ones all the time, which is cool.
We're gonna
talk about that. That's what we want. But getting to know Lance and Colin, or getting to know Josh, or getting to know Mike and Payette and all the different Beth at Bear Island and as many of the different people as we can. Like I love it. It's a friendly scene. It's different for sure, but it's also like just a different demographic. The beers we brew are a little bit different.
What would you say the warming up period? You'd say it'd be 2-3 years. You felt like?
I felt like it was at least 2 to 3 years before like I really started to see. Well, before we really started to see decent velocity out of Hayden, and not that like we've always done well with them, and they're like literally like the greatest distributor of like ever right now.
Yeah.
But it did take a little bit of time. And I think a lot of it is just market awareness, and some of it was just people getting to know we were here. Like, you move in and you don't ever move any of your stuff, in the sense that we didn't have the tasting room and stuff except for the one here in Nampa, which, let's be honest, the one in Nampa was a little bit difficult to find.
Yeah.
So, like, you really had to know where it was to go there.
To follow the signs, and then there was a yellow, like...
Well, there weren't even signs for years. So, like...
Oh, that's true.
It was... So, anyway, it did... I think that really, like, finally got to the point where we're like, oh, yeah, you guys are here. And now to the point where people, like, recognize it. And they're like, oh, I love your tasting room downtown, or whatever the case. So, it was... I mean, yeah, it was a great reception. Honestly, it was a great reception. I mean, I got rid of my California plates pretty fast. That helps.
That does. License.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a good transition up here. I love being here now, and I love being a part of this beer scene in general.
Nice. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to hear. Other than like a nasty story about somebody.
No, honestly, all the brewery owners, operators here have all been pretty awesome. And I mean, I know how I would feel if like a brewery that had already, like, I mean, we were pretty good size when we came up here, moved into my backyard. That's tough. And I think that Josh and the other big breweries have been really pretty receptive.
That's my point to the question, is that it should have been rough.
Yeah.
Because you guys came in here like a freaking bull in a china shop and just started pumping out beer. Like, it was pretty, for like a brewery like the size of mine, which we were barely scraping to like 1,000 barrels, trying to get to like 2,000 barrels. You guys really came in, and you know what? I never felt one little bit. There was nothing like I was never like, fuck those guys. Never once did I think that, because I had already met Dan, I had met Mike, I'd met you a little bit, and I'd met some of the other people that came up here, and I was just like, well, these guys are really fucking cool. They're making some awesome beer, I'd asked about you to some other people, and they'd be like, yeah, that guy's a brewer. Like, I'd be like, all right. Well, I mean, my thing also was that if, as like sort of the historian or one of the, not Bob does a better job than me, but as one of the historians of Idaho beer, to see you guys come up here and just make awesome beer was like my biggest thrill with you guys coming up here. Like the first time I had Buku, I was like, well, okay, like, how do we compete with this? This is a freaking awesome beer. And then you guys do a really good job of also maintaining that and, switching the recipe up here and there whenever you need to. The can art changes a little bit here and there, which is awesome. And then you also have a kick-ass like double IPA, and you have a kick-ass stout, and you have all this other stuff too to kind of go with it. And then you're pushing out. You even named it Cali Creamin', and that beer rocks. I mean, so like it was cool to see kind of what you guys could do coming up here and bringing more talent. And I'm a firm believer of like a rising tide raises all ships. And you guys, I think, definitely did that.
Well, I think part of it too was getting like I brought one brewer up here as my head brewer, but the reality was at that point we hired everybody like locally, and I mean some of them were from other breweries here in town.
Yeah, for sure.
We had Torres that came over from Edge.
You stole Torres. You son of a bitch.
Shows.
Well, you stole Carey first. Actually.
Yeah, that's true.
You stole Carey first.
That's true.
And then you came after Torres.
That's true.
Poor Brian, just sitting there like, what's wrong with me?
And I love Brian.
Yeah, Brian's the best. But not with Torres. They shipped him out.
I know now he's
Upslope sent him to Boulder.
And now he's in Boulder.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that was part of it too. I mean, now my head brewer that I brought with me had moved on, so now Matt Watterson, who was at Payette. I mean, we really tried to embrace. Like I didn't like try to just like take a group of like San Diego or California brewers and plop them down here and be like, this is Mother Earth now. I mean, we really tried to be a part of the community right from the get-go, which was cool. And I think is also super important is to being a part of the community. And I will openly admit that probably more doors opened communication-wise with, some of the other brewers in town because we cross over with employees. And also we try to do our best to like be a good like community partner. And like, we have a lot of yeast, so we try to share as much of it as we can. If you need hops, or malt or cans or whatever, like we try to do as much as I can. And really reasonably, we've been able to build relationships with everybody to where they also do that with us. It's just the same for us. We run out of, chocolate malt or Citra as just as much as anybody else. And so having the ability to call Sockeye or call Edge or call whoever has always been great. And so, I mean, it's just part of being in the community. But it's also the craft beer thing. Like, I think in most industries you would have seen a lot more like, those guys are not from here. They shouldn't be here. But in brewing, you don't see that much of that.
Well, that's what kind of I'm getting to. Is like I'm not shocked. There wasn't that. And I think the reason why there wasn't that is because you guys did such a great job of coming up here and ingratiating yourself to the community. I mean, Dan and Mike and you all moved here from California, and your brewer. You guys all moved up here. I mean, you guys literally were in the community. It wasn't like you guys, like 10 Barrel, you guys didn't just stick a brewery in the middle of town and call it good and get bought by Budweiser 12 seconds later. Like, you guys actually like did the work. I think I just wanted to kind of sort of, this is my long way of commending you for doing such a great job of ingratiating yourself to the community. Like that.
And we wanted and want to still be a part of that.
Because you really,
Dan's the president of the IBU, which, and you can be seen however you want, but the reality of it is that he spends a lot of his time trying to be a better part of our brewing community here.
Yeah, IBU, a great sponsor of the Idaho Booze Podcast, by the way. IBU over here.
Yeah, it's fun.
So we're going to take a short break and regroup. I'm going to open the Buku that's right here before me. I really can't wait to do that. And we're going to talk about some other things here with Chris Baker from Mother Earth Brewing Company right here in beautiful Nampa. Just gorgeous out there right now. Looks like the sun's about to set. Just a really beautiful place. Anyway, we'll be right back after this. It is officially winter cabin season in Idaho, and there is no better place to stock up than Treasure Valley Chevron. TVC carries an amazing selection of craft beer, wine, hard seltzers, and other fun adult beverages that will turn a lazy weekend at the cabin into an epic mountain party. TVC also carries plenty of other essentials for mountain living, like propane, firewood, s'mores materials, and you might even find a cozy blanket. TVC has it all. Snap a picture of yourself picking up some cabin essentials at TVC. Win a free box of jerky from Old Wisconsin. Just send the picture to us at idahobooze@gmail.com to enter to win a huge box of jerky from Treasure Valley Chevron. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz here at Mother Earth in beautiful Nampa, Idaho, chilling with my buddy Chris Baker. Chris, hey, what's up?
How's it going?
It's good. How you doing?
Good.
Just chewing on one of these bukus. Pretty tasty little beer. What was the impetus for Buku? Did you guys have this already when you guys came up, or did you guys come up with this while you were here? Or?
No, this one we had. The Buku brand is almost 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So, and actually when I joined Mother Earth, and if you know kind of the history of our beers, the first core IPA for Mother Earth was Kismet.
Oh, I love Kismet.
So a Nelson 100%
right?
Nelson
yeah.
IPA. And we had.
I miss Kismet.
That's actually a cool story. We had some of the largest, probably largest, but we had some very large Nelson Sauvin contracts at the time.
Nice. Dan
went off, bought a bunch. This is before I joined.
We did that at Epic too.
Yeah, bought a ton. Yeah. Really cool. Like was brewing that beer, but kind of realized fairly quickly that Nelson wasn't necessarily for everybody. And so we ended up making a deal with Lagunitas because Buku came out of the woodworks, was becoming quickly like taking over for Kismet, but we had all these hop contracts and we were like, what were we going to do? So we ended up talking to Lagunitas, who wanted Nelson, but they wouldn't. BSG and some of the other big providers wouldn't sell them Nelson because they didn't have very much.
Yeah, and
they're like, we're not going to sell this giant brewery 1,000 pounds of a hop, or you're going to go through.
Here's a box.
Yeah, you're going to go through 100,000. Like it doesn't matter. And so, but Lagunitas was mad about it. So Jeremy Marshall actually came down, basically told us that he'll take this. I think we had 6,600 pounds, which even in today's world, it's not a ton. And he's like, I'll take all of it. And he's like, and I will sell you Mosaic and Simcoe as much as you need for the next year while you guys figure out your contracts. And so at that point, we switched. And Buku kind of was born out of the Lagunitas hop contracts. And it was awesome. I mean, you just hit them up and they'd ship you a pallet. And at that time, Lagunitas was using like a pallet of Mosaic and Simcoe a day.
Yeah.
Like they were just ripping through hops. So like we were like a fly on the wall, which we thought was huge. I probably bought, 5 pallets, probably 3 pallets total from them before we got our contracts under us. But that was kind of where Buku came from. And really the first batch of it was brewed right when I started with Mother Earth. So it's a Dan recipe. We put it together. The first batch we brewed, we were still learning the 20-barrel system that we got. We under dry hopped it. So me and the other brewer at the time dry hopped it in the bright tank and made what will forever be remembered as the best batch of Buku ever created.
Oh, wow.
And that got served.
God, I bet it was chewy.
Oh, it was so fucking good. It was so good. And actually, I still have people who call me, who I've talked to for years, like, remember that first batch of Buku you made? And I'm like, yes. And then why I can't recreate it, I don't know. But I mean, I love Buku to death. Like, in general, it is my go-to IPA. Yeah, we ended up dry hopping it in the bright tank, made this awesome product. We had a giant Brewers Guild meeting in San Diego at our facility, and everybody came up and tried it, and kind of Buku at that point just kind of like took off. Nice. And then, when we came up here, it's actually funny. We don't sell a ton of it in San Diego anymore. The vast majority of it is sold.
There's so many fucking IPAs down
there.
It
is, yeah.
That's such a tough.
And it's a brand, like, you will be hard-pressed to find a lot of legacy brands like that are still around. I mean, obviously Stone IPA is around, but it's not the same beer anymore.
No.
It's not the beer I brewed when I was there.
No.
It's got, it was all Centennial and Chinook at the time. It is not that anymore. Good beer, just not the same. You will find, if you want to get into like the pizza ports, like the Pontos and Swamis are still there. Those are still the same. And they're still dominating great beers.
I feel like the Swamis,
unicorns.
They've lightened it up a little bit. It's not as heavy as it used to be. The Swami used to be a big crystal ball.
Yeah, could be a little lighter in today's world. And anyway, but like, so we sell the vast majority of it in Idaho, which also makes sense. If you produce IPAs, like they're best sold close to home. They don't have a lot of shelf life on them in all reality. So like it makes a lot of sense we sold it over here. But it's, like I said, daily driver. And now we've moved on to not moved on, but we've added a friend.
Moved on.
No, we've added a friend, a different companion.
Yeah, what's going on with this Ascent? The tap house people over there, the tasting room people over there, tried to sell me on this thing, and I've had it before.
That's what
and
they're supposed to do.
I've actually reviewed it on the show, and it's a West Coast style IPA. So what was the thought there, going from Buku, which I would consider to be like a West Coast style IPA, to now this Ascent, which is the West Coast style?
Yeah, Buku is a little more middle of the road in the sense that it's not as bitter. I would probably entertain the argument now that they're like Buku has become a little bit more bitter over the last probably year or so.
Because of this new friend Ascent?
No, totally nerdy stuff. We like you said before, we make small adjustments to recipes kind of as we go. We've gotten to where we've really fallen in love with the Idaho 7 hop that we're using in the Whirlpool. Idaho 7 has high cohumulin levels, which are more bitter, so it drinks a little more bitter. But the reality is Buku was designed initially as a low IBU West Coast IPA in a time when, like, so Dan had designed the recipe in a time when, like, Stone IPA was killing and all those, and these are really bitter beers. And so he wanted something a little bit less bitter, and that's where Buku came from. We wanted Ascent to be a little bit drier, a little bit more bitter, and a little bit more true to style for West Coast, although old school West Coast is orange and crystal malt and all that stuff. And so it's not that. It is got Pilsner malt in it. It's lighter bodied.
Well, old school West Coast, yeah, it's like Torpedo, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so this is now a more modern West Coast IPA. It is more bitter. It is more dry. And then we went with Strata, Mosaic, and Nelson, actually, to get Kismet and Throwback.
Came on back.
Yeah, as kind of so like, I don't know. In my beer drinking world, like for me here, the most influential IPA I have drank regularly in Idaho is Bodhisattva. Georgetown makes incredible beers. I love it. The beer has what we like to deem here in the brewery a sweaty quality to it. It has a little bit of this, like, what brewers would designate as like a garlic and onion, like an OG flavor that comes from your hops, which is not a bad thing. And Nelson has a little bit of that, so we try to blend Nelson with Strata and Mosaic. Strata being this big, dank, like...
What's the famous garlic and onion one? I guess it would be like...
Well, CTZ or like Chinook's been there. Like if you go anything that hangs really late in the fields out there will be that way.
Yeah.
Chinook's probably the one that you would probably see the most if they tip and go that route. But anyway, we wanted to add a little bit of that, but we also added this like really dank tangerine note from our Strata, and then we add our Mosaic on top, which just has a like this big, bright, like tropical kind of like bouquet that goes into it. So anyway, just ended up with a cross between old and new. Buku's a great brand. It's not going anywhere. I love the beer to death, and it has a very fruit forward, like not aggressively bitter kind of approach to it. Whereas Ascent's going to have more of that aggressive, more of the old school, like dank, like a little bit more resiny.
And Strata hops, you kind of get a little bit of coconut and like some pineapple from them sometimes, right?
Sure, yeah. And
but in the scent, it doesn't. I don't really get that in the scent. The scent, I get more of that Nelson Sauvin, that sort of like white wine, and then like you were saying, that sort of more, I don't know, bitter aspect to it.
Well, so Matt makes fun of me all the time because I would say like I added Nelson, and we only use it in the hot side, and we added it because it adds a sweaty character, like kind of what I would deem as hop richness. It's like a richer hop flavor, which I totally dig. And I think that the reason I brought Bodhi up is because I think Bodhi has that.
I see what you're saying.
And so, and like you want something, if you reach for something, you want to be consistent. And if you want an IPA, you're probably looking for a flavor forward beer. And I think Ascent's got a lot of that.
I'll have to grab some more of that Ascent on the way out. I haven't had it maybe a month or two, so I got to
and we're just now really
acquaint myself with it.
We're really just now starting to ramp it up, and it's something I'm excited about. We got to select our hops for it specifically. Like it's going to be a neat beer. I think it'll be something that'll live. And in a sense, kind of the name because we want, for us as brewers, obviously Mother is known for Cali Cream, and we wanted to kind of move into a world more where like we are hop brewers. We enjoy hoppy stuff. So I came out from San Diego, IPA capital, whatever.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and being in the Pacific Northwest, like a lot of my brewery crushes are on Pacific Northwest breweries at this point. Like, I think Breakside makes incredible stuff. I think Fremont's done some incredible stuff. I think Freem's doing some incredible stuff. And not to mention, you're also plopped in the hop field. So I've got the Goodings and the Jacksons.
I mean,
and we've got
15 minutes away.
CLS, and you go, Yakima. I mean, we got to select a Crosby for Strata in Oregon. So, I mean, it's just a different world, and me and Matt really live it. And so there's a sense kind of a, I don't know, the byproduct of that.
Especially
life.
with Mill 95 coming online.
Sure.
You guys are able to really get a lot of freshly pressed stuff, or maybe when you go for the wet hops, you can get some of those and stuff like that. So yeah, it's awesome that you're able to get like sort of. I remember it was Sierra Nevada tried to do the year-round wet hop beer, right?
Yeah.
That's something with their new hop blockers that you can actually accomplish,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Oh, and that's right. If you look if it's really weird, especially like last year, fresh hop season pushed into like early August.
Yeah.
You can't brew a beer with fresh hops in early August. Like, it's not a thing. So a lot of these guys are getting like, there's a bunch of freeze dried stuff that
they have these hop blockers.
From previous years, and it's getting the beer out of the market. If you're in the brewing industry, like, it's always about earlier. Like, I'll have to have my Oktoberfest and my pumpkin beer out in like August. Because that's what the distributors want.
We've had this conversation. Yeah, we've had this conversation on the pod before, and it's a fun one to have. I think with Greg Barnes when he was on, where when we worked together at a distributor, we were like, okay, look, it's going to be fresh hop, then pumpkin, then whatever the next thing is, stout or no, fresh hop, pumpkin.
Well, you have your Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest. That was
yeah.
And our boss was like, we're not doing pumpkin. No pumpkin. And I'm like, all right. And then we had 6 brewers say to us, hey, we have a pumpkin. And we'd be like, maybe.
We're good. Well, so we made the last year. Cali Screamin' had its debut, which is brainchild of one of our brewers. And it was so funny because it's like, I'm not a big pumpkin beer guy, but I mean, we made 400 barrels of it.
Oof.
Obviously, it was like resonated with people, and I think the product we made was pretty good. But yeah, it's kind of become a cool part of here because we have an Oktoberfest. We're really big into fresh hop, and then we also have the now Cali Screamin'. So it's kind of a funny.
Your guys' fresh hop and your Oktoberfest this year were both really good.
And that's
banging.
I love fresh hop. I always do.
As fresh as it gets. Is that what it's called?
Yep, fresh as it gets. Yep. And then Oktoberfest, like, this year was really good. Definitely an improvement on last year. Next year will be even better. And I mean, it's really funny to talk. I mean, like, there are probably some people that'll hear this that are like, oh, well, you guys are huge. I mean, the reality of it is that we just kind of like every year over year, we're just looking to make them better and better and better.
Yeah,
just like every batch of booze, we're trying to make better and better and better, just like anybody else. And it's super funny because I am probably the most excited this year to rebrew Oktoberfest just because we are like a small step away from nailing it. And it was good last year. I'm not taking it.
I thought it was pretty good.
It's like that little bit more, and it's going to be absolutely exceptional.
You guys, and I think Odell had a pretty good one. I mean, there were like 2 or 3 ones that I rebought. That's how I know I like them. If I rebuy them, like if I do, because I'm such I'm the same way because I'm set up like that. Like, I'm seasonal.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure, I either rebought or I bought a 12-pack of that one, and it was really tasty. As fresh as it gets, however, I went back probably 3 or 4 times.
Dude, I had one of those like a couple of weeks ago, and it was still awesome.
Still good?
So this year we used Crush, which was a HBC 586, which is Crush. This just great, like, apricot, tangerine, like, just fruit explosion, and the hops we got from Jackson were just incredible.
So do you just go in, so earlier when I came in, you were on the phone with some broker or something, doing some business, big business. And so do you just get these hops and then go over to Matt and be like, hey, Matt, look what I have for you?
It's a really funny relationship because, like, the reality at this point is Matt is the head brewer. So Matt is in charge of recipe design, fermentation management, all that kind of stuff. I shift more over to, like, data management, processing. So I look a lot at what our brews are doing and what I think is right and what's wrong. So we work in parallel. But then on top of that, most of what happens is I just try to capture the things that Matt wants and get them for a decent price.
Yeah.
Which, if you know brewers or anybody that's creative, and Matt is very creative and very, very good at his job, it changes all the time. So, like, I'm constantly like, can I buy this malt for this much? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, never mind. I'm going to buy, can I buy this malt for this much? That's a lot of the conversations I have are with hop brokers and malt brokers and everybody in between to try to figure out ways to kind of be business savvy, but also like, I don't know, live Matt's dream in the sense that
Matt happy.
Matt wants to make awesome beer. So if I could give him 100% of what he wanted, I think we would be one of the better breweries in the Western United States. But also a business, so I have to make sure we also lose money on the process, which he could do. He could brew with all German malts and all of the finest, choicest, most expensivest hops, which I know exactly. Which I mean, that's what I want him to be like. That's what I want my head brewer to be like, and then I try to find the middle ground. So a lot of that's what I do.
Nice. And it's a shift for you because you have been a brewer for so long.
I was in his position for a very long time.
Yeah, you were. That's right. And so it's a nice little shift for you to kind of see the other side and the operation side of it. It's a whole different part of brewing that a lot of people don't appreciate. I appreciate it because I had to do it for a little while, and it drove me. Like, as someone that isn't I was a home brewer for a little while, and then after I started working at real brewery, I was like, home brewing is sort of a waste of time.
Yeah. I said I'd never say that, but I don't homebrew anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so, but God bless everyone out there who does it. I mean, keep doing it because it is fun. But once you start working at a real brewery, it's just like, why would I do that?
My pilot system, or my homebrew system, is now the 5-barrel out there where we have ideas and we're like, ooh, let's try this.
Yeah, exactly. And you can sell it. So and then as a salesperson though, you think one way, and then as an operations manager, you think another way. So my thing was always the same thing as you're talking about, was bringing in the ingredients that my brewer needed for the least amount of money. And that's a delicate balance there, I think, when you do that.
It is. There are a lot of breweries that don't make good beer because they either just assume that all ingredients are the same and they just buy the cheapest thing they can find. Sure. And that hurts you. The reality is that, you're using barley grown in a field. There's a farmer somewhere who is probably stoked or not stoked about whatever he's making. And then when you get to, the crystal malts and the more fancy, your specialty malts, there are maltsters who are stoked or not stoked. Mm-hmm. And then you get to hops, and there are growers that are stoked or not stoked. And the reality is, if you really wanted to get to the top, and I'm not saying we're there because we're not. We still have a lot to learn. But, if you want to get to the top of the beer pile, if you want to be Russian River, or you want to be whoever, these top names that have been around for a long time, you have to know all of this stuff. You have to know where to pick the best malt, where to pick the best hops. And then on top of that, you have to make good beer.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to wrangle your yeast and do that correct.
Or water chemistry.
Sure.
Water chemistry, yeast, like you're talking about aeration, filtration. Then it comes to filtration, the back end, and your whirlpooling. All that stuff.
And then you have to do it to make it.
And everything has to be perfect.
And it has to be perfect. And that's what's funny is I really enjoy this batch of Buku.
It's good.
It's actually funny. This one finished a little bit sweeter than our normal batches do, so the bitterness is subdued. But it's a super good batch. And the reality is, we'll go back and look, and we have data. A brewing process is about 150 data points. Fermentation is sampling every 10 minutes for the entire length of fermentation. Filtration's another 30 or 40 data points. Packaging's another probably 50 to 100 data points. Mm-hmm. And so all of that, to get all of those right, in spec and correct, is where the good beer comes from. And it's cool. And that's really what you kind of
it's no wonder why the Germans wrote the book on it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. But that's it. And so when you go to a place, and if you are, as a consumer, have not sat down at a bar.
It's you don't get a lot of awesome beers from Australia, right?
Fair.
But you get a ton from Germany.
Sure, for sure.
They're a little bit more focused on those sort of things.
Yeah, and been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But if you've ever sat in a brewery or a place where everything is just incredible, there's someone behind the scenes that really knows what they're doing. And then if they can do that on a large scale, it's pretty hard. Again, to use the Russian River example, they make great beer. They also make money. And so they found the fine balance between the greatest, choicest ingredients and the right price. Mm-hmm. And that's a really hard thing to do. That's it's a really tricky industry that way. You have to be able to kind of balance all of the stuff.
So you guys are pretty established here now. You've been here for almost 10 years.
Yep.
2016, would you say? You guys So 9 years. And you guys have been sort of, for the last at least 5 or 6, the top producing brewery in the state. Mm-hmm. Is that true? 5 or 6 years or something like that, right?
Yeah. Probably in probably 2020, so probably 5 years.
Yeah, okay. So you guys have had a lot of really kind of fun and interesting ways that this sort of plays itself out. So, for instance, you have the beer like at the Idaho Stampede. You guys have the beer for that, and you guys have had the beer for other things. So now with more breweries coming into the, I mean, I know we had more breweries closed this year than open for this last year, but there have been some really cool new breweries that have come into the market. So how do you guys feel now seeing these new breweries? Are there any breweries out there that you've seen open up that you guys have your eye on as to like maybe some competition or someone that you look at like, okay, maybe those guys have what it, they're looking pretty good.
If you want to sit on the competition side, you have to sit with the sales team.
Yeah.
As a brewer,
let's talk about brewer.
As a brewer, no, I'm always stoked to just have more good beer around. Yeah, sure, there are little breweries here in town that are popped up. I mean, obviously, Burt's has been very explosive, and they've shown up all over the market. I think they make really good beer. I'm really excited to have them. They're a California brewery, I guess. Are they? They're not. They're an Idaho brewery. I should say that they're an Idaho brewery through and through. They're from California, which to me, they have really good experience. They've been around the block. They've lived in some pretty competitive situations.
They're from Chapman, baby.
Yeah, and I think they're making good beer. And so, I'm stoked that they're there. I think Kyle at Ruckus is doing a good job, and he just started.
Kyle's doing a great job.
He's his beers are good. As a transition from a home brewer to a professional brewer, he's doing great.
Unbelievable.
And so, yeah, I mean, I like the loose screw transition to the new spots. I think that there's a lot of cool beer in the market. Honestly, I think Sockey's doing some cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to talk about, their transition with Ben and all that, he's done some neat stuff. Wow. Him and Josh and company, and he's got good brewers. I mean, it's a good team.
He's got a whole team of good brewers.
It does. And so I think that there's a lot of stuff I'm really excited about in the Valley, and I think there's just more to come. We get to see Alliteration open their spot, finally, and I think we get to see some of these other brewers kind of get to the limelight, which I think will be cool. And the rising tide floats all boats. Do I see him as competition as a brewer? No, I see him as just another group to learn from or bounce ideas off of when we talk about what we like to make and how we like to make beer.
I mean, I sort of think it should go the other way, though. I think a lot of them should be coming to you and your brewery to learn. That's what we did when I was at Edge. Once we saw what you guys were doing, we started hanging out here a lot. In fact, a lot of the people that I had working for me came here and worked.
Some of them. But we'll use Burt's as an example. Burt's came out flying the Pilsner flag right out of the gate. I didn't have mine yet. We were working on them. But I think they've done a good job. I mean, they're part of loggers. Yeah, and they were part of a Bit Burger Challenge, and I think they put money into those spots. So I think there's stuff to be learned from everybody in all situations. You would be amazed, especially as a production person, it's like working at Stone. You do the same stuff over and over again. Mm-hmm. And there are people that have worked there for 10 years and doing whatever their tasks.
They're still making levitation.
Or they've been running the filter, they've been an assistant brewer, whatever. And the reality of it is that, you'll I always use this example. There's a guy, and he actually lives in Idaho.
Levitation.
And I love him as a brewer. But the reality was, he was always below me. But one day I walked in, and he was CIPing a bright tank, and their bright tanks are huge. And
he was cleaning in place a bright tank.
Yeah, he was cleaning a bright tank, and they're big, gigantic. And I was trying to do it, and I was struggling because the pump kept cavitating, pulling air in or whatever. And I was like, man, this is super annoying. And I'm watching him, I'm like, why are you not having any problems with this? And he's like, well, I just add more water and chemical. And it's the dumbest example because it's obvious in hindsight. But good ideas come from everywhere. And so the reality of it is I always think about that when I'm they're the guys on my floor will be I do it this way because it's faster or it's better or whatever the case is. And I'm like, man, you got to pick that up on. So it doesn't matter if you make 5 barrels or 10,000 barrels or 100,000 barrels. The reality is that we all have good ideas. It depends on what you're good at. Yeah. And so I think Burt's has got some really cool stuff as far as their lager game's cool. They're doing a lot of spooning, so they do a lot of pressure
spooning.
Yeah, they do. They do lagers.
Is there a big spoon and a little spoon?
Probably, honestly. But no, they ferment under pressure with their lagers, which changes your fermentation profiles. It tends to be cleaner. And I think something we're messing with, I think it's something that they have experience with. I would love to talk to them about that.
Yeah, Loose Screw has a decoction.
Yep, and they're doing more of that. So see how that actually plays out.
They actually have some lager tanks, too. They have some horizontal tanks.
So, that's the kind of stuff people get put in different situations. They get to learn about how.
Have there been any regional breweries that you've seen, not maybe get outside of Boise for a second? I understand Boise, we're our own region, but any statewide or maybe away from here that you've had that have kind of tickled your fancy a little bit?
Well, of course. My parents live in Portland.
Oh, they do.
So I make that run frequently.
No longer in Salt Lake.
No. We went from Salt Lake to California. They went to Portland. I came here.
Okay.
But they live there, and we like Freem.
Now we know.
I'm a huge there you go. I'm a huge fan of Freem. I think the stuff that Great Notion is doing is really good. I think the stuff that Von Ebert's doing is really good. We don't get as much of that here.
Von Ebert, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Von Ebert's like Pilsner and volatile substance.
It's all German stuff, right?
No, they have an IPA. I mean, their IPA volatile substance is incredible.
Okay.
If you get a chance to try it, go try it. It is. I don't know that they're not huge. I don't know that they're distributed outside of like the Portland area. But anyway, I think they're really good. I was trying to think of where else I go. There's
Breakside. You said Breakside earlier. That's a good one.
I'm a Breakside geek.
You
So
me both.
we're collabing with them this summer.
Oh, shut up. Is Ben coming here?
Yeah, and so we're.
Do you guys have a workout facility in there for him? Or?
No, he's gonna have to drink with us.
Oh man!
But no, Ben Edmonds is a super cool dude.
Amazing.
And does
Jacked.
But the same thing. Does it all for the right reasons. Like brews because he likes beer.
He's a great dude.
Somebody you want to make beer with.
If you ever go to Idaho Falls and you want to meet a guy who's just the nicest guy who will talk beer with you, seek out Ben from Breakside.
Me and Matt Watterson walked up to him at Idaho Falls and we're just like, so we're kind of nerds and we love your beer and like just went, and yeah, he just sat down and talked to us for a while and now we're going to do a collab with
Same
him.
exact. I was cool. Like, I've been buying Wanderlust since it was at Costco.
Exactly. I used to buy it when it was in
22
at Brewers Havens and 22s. No date codes, and I was like, this beer is so good, I don't care. Like I
don't need a code.
Half of them could be bad because they're old, and half of them are going to be good, and I want the good that they're good at. So
no, I would make the Dana who works at Costco on Cole Road. I would say, tell me when the Wanderlust gets in.
Yeah, dude, totally. You got that connection?
Yeah, you got it, dude.
So, I mean, they're like I said, I got a ton of friends in San Diego that make great beer. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I have become more of a
some of those
P&W fan,
right? So we've seen like Abnormal come up here.
That's Jason. He used to brew for me actually.
Hoff or Haas? What's that one?
Is Haas up here?
No, it's not. It was. Hess was up here.
Hess was up here. Yeah.
No, it's Boss something.
Oh, Boss Ramblers out of
Boss Rambler.
They're out of Spokane.
I thought they were in San Diego.
I don't think so. I could be wrong. But you probably you're thinking of the guys who make the Japanese lager, Holland.
Yeah.
So Holland. Is that right? Anyway, they're
gonna cut all this out.
But they're up here and they were part of Scout. I think they're part of the Scout ownership team. But they also brought Coronado, which we did a collab.
Coronado.
We did a collab with Coronado last year. If you get to drink Weekend Vibes,
that was a great beer.
Super good beer.
I did drink it. I reviewed it.
What's awesome?
Great beer. What's
awesome is the two guys. So we did a collab. The two guys that are running that brewery now. So Chris Sartori was my boss at Stone as the brewing manager, and John Egan was his boss at Stone when he was a brewer.
And also one of the CEOs at Lumen on Severance, maybe.
Possibly. But yeah, it's funny the small world that things happen. But Coronado's doing some really good stuff. Abnormal's doing some cool stuff. Yeah. He won a medal at World Beer Cup for I think he got a bronze for IPA. He makes super good stuff. He actually used to brew for me. I think Jason's an awesome brewer. Yeah. We brewed a Pilsner when he was up here that I loved. It was bitter and I loved that. There's a ton of good breweries up here, and I'm on the spot. I'm terrible.
Let's just that's how you're doing great. Let's just we're gonna wrap up here. We're just about done. I promise. This has been.
I can talk forever. Sorry.
No, that's fine. You can keep talking all you want. I'll leave the mic. So. You guys just came out with this Pilsner. That's going to be the new addition to the core lineup. What else do you have coming up? Do you have any more Four Seasons stuff coming up? Any more collabs coming up in the next couple months that we should know about? Anything that we should keep our eyes out for?
Great question. We have our. I'm not going to not say it. I'll say this. Spring. So our Four Seasons program, spring is coming up. That is our barrel age release. That is going to be a Mexican chocolate imperial stout. I'm really excited about that. The
sounds amazing.
Matt has sourced the choicest cocoa nibs. If you really wondered if this kid has the coolest job of all time, he does.
Cocoa nibs.
He's just like running around shopping for cocoa nibs.
So expensive.
So expensive. That's the part. Yeah, I have to keep him. This funny story. Just side note. We made winter, so it was the Four Seasons before. Yeah. We wanted to make a maple strong ale. We bought a 55-gallon drum of maple syrup to make. I think it was only 20 barrels. Oof. and we dumped it's like $4,000 worth of maple syrup into it. Very cool experience, but holy cow, maple syrup's expensive.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So spring's coming up. Mexican chocolate. Really excited for that. I think the base beer we have is great. We're like 19 months in barrels. Beer is really like at the prime time to pull it out.
Cool.
And then summer's going to be the collab with Breakside, which will be an IPA that I'm really excited about. We are now currently...
Yeah, you guys have kind of moved the Four Seasons around a little bit from where it used to just be all barrel-aged stouts. Now you've kind of... The one was a brown. Now you have a... Last summer, I think you had... what was it? Like a...
I did the Oak Aged Lager.
It's a lager. That's right.
I did an Oak Aged Fest beer. Which
that's what it was.
Personally, the best beer I've ever had on the entire planet, and it could be for lots of reasons, was Augustiner's Fest beer in Germany during Oktoberfest. Mm-hmm. But I also, just to preface it, I walked probably 10 miles with my backpack on because I couldn't get an Uber from Weinstefan to go to Augustiner, so I walked, and I walked to a train and then went down there, and it's a super long. It was a huge thing. But I sat down at Augustiner, sweating profusely, drank this beer, and it was the best beer I've ever had. So we're trying to recreate it, and we were trying to be a little bit more. It's not all we did barrel aged stouts for the most part for a long time. Trying to branch out.
It was all big barrel aged stouts forever, right?
Yep.
And you've branched out. I found the brown to be amazing.
I thought the brown was great.
I thought that beer. I think I still have a can of it in my fridge. Actually,
that's
not because I haven't drank it, but just because I don't know why I do this. I'm just a hoarder naturally.
Sure. Dude, coconut brown. If you're gonna hoard something, coconut brown is
beer
awesome.
is good.
Beer is good.
The winter was really good. That was the maple one you were talking about.
Yep.
And now, so the one in summer is going to be your collab with
Breakside.
Okay.
Which will be super cool. And then right now, Dan doesn't know this yet, but me and Matt are going to go do a collab with Lumberbeard probably at the end of the month, which I'm really excited about.
Make sure you hit up Dick's Burgers. That place is really good.
All right.
It's right across the street. You can't miss it.
Awesome. I will definitely do that. Yeah, we got that connection through Link Malting, which is super cool.
Oh, cool. Nice guys too.
It's super nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm really, and I just started a conversation with Brett from Lumberbeard, and I'm really excited for that. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of, it'll be mostly the small batch stuff that's coming out. I mean, you get into our seasonal stuff. Big Mo, this is our 15th anniversary, so Big Mo will be a big deal this year. We'll be pushing that our triple.
So you probably, you didn't hear it because you probably didn't hear it, but that was my sort of my summer fling.
Big Mo. Dude, I love that beer.
I think I might have got. It was at Costco, and it was only $10, I think, for like a 4-pack.
Yep.
I might have gone through 3-4 packs.
Yeah, dude, if you want to totally just disrupt a Saturday of your life, just drink a 60-ounce can of Big Mo.
And it's just like,
and you're already on your way to being drunk, which
blueberry bomb. It's just so good.
Nelson, you see, you're a Nelson guy.
Yeah,
it's a Nelson. And I love Nelson in that.
Nelson's great. Yeah, it's a great beer. All right, cool. Well, Chris, man, thanks a lot for hanging out with me I hang out with you more. We're at your work.
Thanks for hanging out with me in my coffee room.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I just want to say thanks a lot to you guys and to Dan and everybody here at Mother Earth for accommodating us today. Awesome place to come out. I love coming out here. Maybe next time I won't wait 3 years so I don't get lost in the brewery. I went in the old door where the tasting room used to be, and there was like a centrifuge or something.
There's a keg filler there.
There's a keg filler. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a keg filler. And I was like, oh my God, there used to be a bar here. I eventually found the bar. But yeah, thanks a lot again, Chris, for being on. Is there anything else you need to talk about? Anything else come to mind?
No.
Just get out there and buy some Mother.
Yeah, buy some beer.
Your mother.
Yeah, check out our stuff. Just know that we really just want to make great beer.
Yeah,
that's all we care about. So get out there and check it. I know Matt would echo that sentiment. We have a really good team. We love what we do. So
look out for Hop Diggity coming soon.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, along with Syntax was out. I got a 4-pack of Syntax. You know what? I'll say this. I've come back around. I do like Syntax, but in the 16-ounce can. Once a year, if you just put that out as like a seasonal or whatever, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
That's how I feel about it. Like I don't need it all the time. And if anything, I'd get to where I really resent it if it's around all the time, but I love it.
When you do drink it, though, you're like, This is a really tasty peanut butter stout.
Yeah.
Now, I don't need it in my mixed 12 pack all year round. So,
and you really don't need to drink.
You guys made a good decision.
You don't need to drink a ton of 8.2%.
You're not my
peanut
mother.
butter.
On that note, I will say we'll be right back. We're going to come back with Friday Night Pints. I'm going to review some Mother Earth beers, including whatever is in this mystery can over here, maybe. And I'm going to go grab some new beers from them. I'm going to also look at that Ascent again, because I think it's been about 6 months since it's come out, so why not try it again? Is it a new batch? Should be a new batch,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're going to check that out on the Idaho Booze Podcast. That's going to come back right after this. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Looking to spice things up in the cocktail department? Try adding a little taste of chili to your next cocktail with Chili Lime Bitters from Warren Reserve. Just 2 drops will give your old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or margarita just the right amount of zing to warm you up in these cold winter months. Want to feel the burn? Just add another 2 drops. Chili Lime Bitters turn a simple Bloody Mary into a beautiful spicy Bloody without adding more mix or booze. Just a couple of drops of Chili Lime Bitters will do ya. Get Chili Lime Bitters at warrenreserve.com, order online, get free delivery, plus save 15% on orders over $40 with my promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com, IdahoBooze25 at checkout. Save tons of money on awesome bitters from Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, and we are here in the bar area. Kind of different, doing something a little different this week. Why not? Shake it up. And we are going to be reviewing a couple of beers we had at Mother Earth while I was there visiting with Chris. Wasn't Chris great, by the way? Awesome interview. Great dude. So happy to have him on. Thank you so much to Dan Love and Chris Baker, everyone over there at Mother Earth, for making that happen. Really appreciate that. Anyway, we're going to start off with Mother Earth's brand new Pilsner. It's called the All-Purpose Pilsner from Mother Earth. This thing is really nice. It's clean, crisp, very refreshing. And it was nice to have, this is the first batch that they did. So I was there with Chris Baker. We were drinking it, and he was going over it, telling me kind of what they're going to look at. Maybe they'll look at doing some things with the color, doing some things with the hop content, with the kind of the bitterness. But this beer right now is pretty fucking good. Like, it's a nice little beer. It's got great hop character, good bitterness. I would put this in kind of that American Pilsner category where it has a lot of really nice malt flavor, like really good, like honey and straw and, you know, flavors like that, like you expect in a Pilsner, but also super crisp and clean with a good hop bitterness. So this is the All-Purpose Pilsner from Mother Earth. Boom, right there. You can get that anywhere they sell Mother Earth beer. And then another one we tried, this one fairly new. It came out a little while ago. It's called Ascent, and it's right there. Boom, Ascent. And this beer is a West Coast style IPA brewed with Sabra and I want to say Nelson and maybe some Mosaics in there as well. Can't remember what all the hops were. We talked about it in the podcast. But anyway, this is a really classic West Coast style IPA. Pours clean and crisp with a little bit of a white head, like kind of a thicker white head, and lots of good bubbles in there. And this beer, right on the nose, you get that Sabra, that kind of little bit of like a coconutty kind of aroma. But really, this beer is all about that grapefruit, that sort of lime zest, lemon zest, and it just has a really nice finish. Maybe a little bit of like berry in there as well. And then the finish on it is nice and bitter. Finish is clean, and just a really nice beer. It's an awesome West Coast IPA from Mother Earth to go right along with a Buku, which we discussed in the interview. They kind of they don't really mimic each other. They kind of complement each other. So I think this one, Ascent, is a little bit more on the West Coast style in that it's kind of bitter with those big flavors. Really enjoyed it. This one, 7%. And you want to look for the ones that are in the painted cans. This is the newest crop that's out for Ascent. So watch out for those painted cans. Looks like it was brewed on the 28th of January. So pretty nice and fresh there from our friends at Mother Earth. And then a third one that we got that was brand new from them, Cosmic Dissonance. This is their Project X series. I might have talked about this one last week, and just because we had them on this week, I'll talk about it again. This is a really nice and tropical beer. It's got pineapple, coconut, passion fruit, peach, all these things kind of on the nose, Pours really hazy. Their Project X Series beers are really pretty in the glass. They're hazy, yellow, thick white head. And this one has all those nice aromas. And you don't get a ton of the coconut or a ton of the pineapple in the beer. It's mostly that kind of maybe passion fruit with a peach and maybe just a little bit of like a lemon or lime zest in there as well, with a nice kind of smooth finish. Not too bitter on this one. And that one's, I think, 7.2%. And you can find that anywhere they have Mother Earth beers. Then I took a trip right down the street here to Gem State Brewing, where Chris had our brand new IPA on. All right. And boy, oh boy, does he mean all right. This thing is just popping with that flowery, peppery rye flavor that we all have come to know and love. And it's just a smack in the face, really. I mean, it's kind of aggressive at first, but then as you get into it, you like it a little bit more and more. There's a little bit of lemon in there as well from the hops to kind of balance it out. Nice bitter finish to go along with that sort of flowery, peppery rye that you get from the beer as in the all rye. I think that one's 5.8%, and that goes on tap today at Gem State. And then we went over and had a sockeye beer. This one was called Crudus. This is a kind of a weirdo. It's a unboiled, unfiltered IPA. I found it to be pretty good. I don't know why they didn't boil it or why they didn't filter it. It was a nice like orange color, had a little bit of a white head, aromas, maybe some lemon, grapefruit. It was pretty traditional kind of in the aroma department. Grapefruit, lemon. I would even put maybe a little bit of pine in there. And then on the finish, it was pretty smooth, not super bitter. Maybe just a little bit to kind of take out some of that malt flavor. There was a pretty good amount of malt flavor, sort of like a crackery, maybe even like a graham cracker kind of malt flavor. So look out for that Crudus that's on tap all over the place. I think I had it in Meridian somewhere. So that one's 7%, I believe. I don't know if the IBU is on that. But yeah, nice beers this week. Friday Night Pints. Awesome job by Mother Earth, Gem State, and Sockeye. Thanks very much. And we will be right back to wrap things up here on the Idaho Booze Podcast. That's going to do it for this week's show. I want to thank Chris Baker from Mother Earth Brewing for coming on the show today and dropping some craft beer knowledge straight onto the top of our heads. I love talking about the San Diego craft scene, and it was so cool that he was there, like kind of as it was happening. I was stuck in Salt Lake, so it wasn't like it wasn't bad. We had a lot of really good breweries, but man, to be in San Diego during that time, so cool. So awesome that he was able to talk to us about it. So thanks a lot to Dan Love and Chris Baker out there at Mother Earth in Nampa. Thanks to our friends at Warren Reserve Cocktail Company for sponsoring the show. Send in your favorite cocktail to idahoboozepod@gmail.com. And if we pick your cocktail for the cocktail of the week, you win a free prize pack from Warren Reserve. Some artisanal bitters for you. I want to thank Treasure Valley Chevron, Boise Beer Buddies as well. Last but not least, I want to thank all of you for listening. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Hope you can subscribe and share the show on whatever platform you like. Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube, Substack, or maybe some streamer out there I've never even heard of. Billy Point or Podcave. I have no idea. Thanks to all of you. Have fun this Super Bowl Sunday. Be sure to have my drinking game handy. And you can get that on idahobooze.substack.com in the written form. And have some fun with that. Not too much fun. Careful with that one. I am your host, Steve Kuntz, and if I don't make it back from the mountains this weekend, then I'd like to say good day and good drinking, everyone.